Well, our life together as a married couple and raising kids was about as typical and normal as any American family would be. We were plugging away. I was working full time. Sandy was at home raising the kids and taking care of the home, and just plugging away, just kind of just normal from one week to the next. Life was really good, was going well. Career was going great, and didn't really have any fears about what really life had in store. On the 21st of May 2016, the kids had just gotten out of school for the year, and Sandy and the kids and her mom had taken off to the beach for probably a week. I'm not quite sure how long they were going to be gone for, but it was a Saturday night, and I was at home working my new job, and but I was at home that weekend. Our oldest was at home. He was with some friends that weekend, and so I was kind of at home by myself that weekend. And that Saturday night, about 10 o'clock, I was in my bedroom and ended up getting probably the sharpest pain I've ever felt in my right side, kind of underneath my arm on the right side. Didn't know what it was, and but you know, as men, we're constantly doing stuff, banging stuff around, you know, kind of tussling around and hurting ourselves, and it was just something I just kind of blew off and didn't think much of it and thought, well, 5 minutes or so it'll go away. And it continued. So after about an hour of this pain not going away, I couldn't change positions laying in bed. I just wouldn't go away, and it was the most intense pain I had felt. I finally decided, okay, well, I'm going to call 911. Called 911. Our neighbor is a fireman here in town, and he got the call and was the first one to show up at the house along with some paramedics. And basically I was describing the pain to them. They didn't really understand exactly what it was, but I was getting nauseated, was having trouble really kind of concentrating. And you know, at this point I'm still, you know, like I said, I'm by myself, and I thought, well, you know, I'm just gonna go to the hospital, get this checked out. I'm not going to bother Sandy and ruin their trip because they had only left the day before. And so I'll just go get this checked out, you know, and get back home and then tell them later. So I wake up, I guess I'd passed out or something, but I woke up in the emergency room, and there sat my oldest son Austin and his friend and Kim Bannister. And I couldn't figure out how in the world they were even knew where I was or how I'd even gotten there, because, you know, I was at home by myself. So as the story goes, and this just shows you how small of a world we live and how quickly information can get around, but a neighbor that lives up the street from us, she had been on a family trip with her family. They had just gotten back late that night and saw the ambulance out in front of her house. So she started texting my oldest daughter, Caitlin, saying, hey, what's going on at your house? Well, she's in Florida at the beach. And of course, they don't know anything that's going on. And so they had a series of text messages, and she said, yeah, there's an ambulance, and I think they just put your dad in the ambulance. So Sandy found out, and then she called Kim, I think, and got a hold of Austin. And so I wake up in the ER, and there they are. So you can't hide anything, guys. So just remember that. But anyway, so kind of had a rough night. They did some CTs. They found several spots in my lungs, and I had a knot in my chest, but they weren't really sure what it was. Oddly enough, they let me go home. And so that following Tuesday, I went to a doctor, and he said, look, your pulse is 135 and your color's not very good. And said, I'm going to send you to the hospital. So ended up going to the hospital for the first time in my life. I never really had any sickness, no surgeries. Had a kind of a dull life, really, up to that point. And they ran all kinds of tests, did a biopsy, and well, they finally came with a diagnosis, but they told me I had stage 4 melanoma. And when I heard the word cancer and the fact that it was stage 4, you know, my initial immediate reaction was that of, you know, death. Most of it, though, was just of the unknown, because I had never obviously never personally gone through this before. There initially, that was the reaction for me, and just, you know, what is that going to mean for my family? You know, how are they going to make it? And so those were some of the things that obviously hit me hard. That's tough to hear. You know, I was 45 at the time, just turned 45, still pretty young, you know, and he said, yeah, you've probably had this a year. I had no symptoms really leading up to this point, and of course at that point I had several spots in my lungs and a spot in my chest. Actually, I had one lump on my spine as well too. And so he said you had a stage 4 melanoma. And there was this one oncologist that came to see me. He came in that day and said, no, it's just me and him in the room, I guess. And he said, you know, he said, you probably have somewhere between 6 months and 4 years to live. And so it was, I guess, shortly after he had visited and had left that we had some friends to come visit. Pastor Nick came, and had a pity party for about 3 or 4 hours. You know, it's like, what am I going to do? And I knew that it was something that God could take care of. And so after that 3 or 4 hour period of time passed, you know, I just knew it was something that I had to give to God, and then He would take care of me.